Hi, it is Rebecca Ranking, speech pathologist, and I love getting high practice trials and I love sharing with speech pathologists how they can have fun in therapy without pulling out the latest pop-in game, but still get high practice trials. And today I want to show you 5 ideas that you can use with marbles. So my first tip is when you buy marbles, I want you to count them and I want you to put them in a container or like a little box. I'm going to show you what I do. Very noisy. Okay, so this is what I have here, and I've got 35 marbles in here. Now, the reason why this is important is because whatever activity you're using, and I'm going to be sharing 5 different activities with you, you know that you can get, for example, 35 practice trials with any of these. So the more marbles you have, and that's why I suggest that you count them and you label on your box or your bag, it lets you know how many trials you can hope to get in that activity. So it just sets you up for success. So my first activity is so simple, but I promise you, your kids are going to absolutely love this. All you are doing, I know it sounds so simple, I'm laughing, you are literally rolling a marble across the table and the child is going to catch it in a cup. Now, I know how this sounds, but I cannot tell you how much kids love this. And it's because I might start slow, okay? And the key is the child has to have the the cup just below the table. Otherwise it will hit. My kids love this so much because I start off a bit easy like this and they get to catch, but then once they start to practice their target words, let's just say we're working on SL clusters and they say slip, I start to speed it up and they really have to move around. So it might be like slip and, you know, they are catching it over here in the marble. So this game is so much fun and often the child will say to me, let's do it again. So that's why however many marbles you have is really, really important. Trust me that this is also a really great one to play in groups because you can have your kids lined up across the table, each with their own cup, and you just let them go. So have a lot of fun with that one. Just be prepared that it's noisy on the table. My second favorite activity is hiding marbles in kinetic sand. So I really enjoy this because a lot of my kids are a bit sensory and they like the feel of this, and I can get double the amount of practices in. And this is because we will get our practice trials for hiding the marbles. So every time we say our word, slip, we're going to hide a marble, cover it up, slap, hide a marble, cover it up. So we are continuously hiding these marbles and covering them up in the sand so that you don't know where they are. See? And then I usually will do something else and then I bring this out again knowing that I've hidden 35 marbles in here, and then the child gets to dig through and find the marbles, and every time they find one they say a target word. So this activity is great because you can actually get double the amount of practice trials in if you split it up like that. Really, really fun for kids who like to get hands-on and who like the feel of sand. My third favorite activity involves throwing marbles, and I either throw them in an ice cube tray or I throw them in poppers. Now, sometimes these are going to bounce out. So we usually put a bit of a competitive element in and we try to say, like, let's see who can get the first row. And so then, you know, whoever gets the 3 in a row or 5 in a row or 10 in a row wins. So when you're doing it with an ice cube tray, it might be like this. You might say sleep and you roll it like that. Slow, see how you don't know, see how you don't know where it's going to land. Sleep and you throw it. When you're doing it on the poppers, they can bounce out. So again, if it bounces out, sometimes our rules are doesn't count, but you might do sling, ooh, slow, sleep, oh, doesn't count, slip. There we go. So that can just be a little bit of a fun element as well, just to get high practice in. I always like to have some play-based elements or like getting on the floor when I think of my therapy activities. These two are really, really great. The first one is we say our words or our sentences again, or our minimal pairs, depending on whatever you're doing in speech therapy, the speech sounds, and I will just throw the marbles on the ground. So the kids kind of like that. Just throw them around on the ground, and then there's like a whole big bunch of marbles everywhere. And then what's fun for the child is that when they're all on the ground, I give them one of these. They just eat things up. And then the child has to say the target word again every time they pick one up. So my kids really like eating them up. and they say the word, I usually get them to pack up for me, which is it helps me out because I've made such a mess. So they get to go around, pick up one, say the target word, and put it back in the tray for you. Really easy. My fifth favourite activity for marbles, and it's actually probably my favourite activity for marbles, is how you would usually think of playing marbles. I usually have a shooter marble, and we say all of our target's words first, or our sentences to set up the game. So all of the marbles would be in here. Now, I am very lucky because I have squares on my carpet. If you don't, you can still just have them in a general little area like this. You don't necessarily need it to be in a square. And then once we've set it up, because we've practiced, and every time we've said our correct word, we put our marble out, we just usually have fun with shooting. And we play two ways. One, if you hit a marble, you get to keep it. So there we go. I hit 3 marbles, I get to keep it. Or sometimes if I'm being tough and we play with the idea of the square, you have to hit it out of the square. And again, usually I'm trying to get as much practice as we can. So we are saying a word to throw or shoot the marble. So now, see, there we go. I did not hit any out of the square, so I don't get to keep any marbles. My last little tips, if you are going marble shopping, they are very, very affordable. I would suggest getting a mixture of blocked marbles, like blocked color like this. I find that this can be easy, especially if I'm like shooting or doing one of those games. And then I do like to get marbles that have the clear. So I like to kind of have 2 sets of marbles just in case we're playing games or we need to know whose marbles. So I might get, the block might be mine, and the ones that have the really nice clear transparency and that glass feature might be for the child. And I've just found that it's so much easier in games to know whose marbles belong to who. So I hope that has given you some more ideas on how to use marbles in speech therapy. They are such an affordable game. It can be used for parents, it can be used for speech pathologists in their session. But just as you've seen, you can use marbles in so many different ways just to get high practice trials. Just make sure you buy a lot of marbles, because the more marbles you buy, the more practice trials you will get. As always, if you have any requests for what you would like us to do our next high practice session on, tell us in the comments. Just say, hey Rebecca, what do you do with pop-up pirate, or what do you do with jumping frogs? And I will share with you 5 different ways that you can use them to get high practice trials. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep supporting this series.